Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to kick off today's presentation on exorcism. This is the first slide, our cover slide, featuring the title Exorcism and copyright 2024 by Continuous Learning Development. Today, we'll explore what exorcism really involves, its history, and modern perspectives. We'll also look at some fascinating cases and the significance behind these practices. So, let's get started and dive into this intriguing topic together. They see you from where you don't see them. This line highlights the idea that there are unseen forces or entities observing us from hidden places. It's a powerful reminder that not everything around us is visible or immediately apparent. In the context of our discussion, it suggests that there are influences working behind the scenes, often beyond our awareness. The verse from the Quran, "For he and his tribe watch you from a position where ye cannot see them," emphasizes this point. There are beings or forces watching us that we cannot see with our eyes. And what's especially interesting is the note that these evil ones are made friends only to those without faith. This means that faith acts as a shield or protection. Without it, we become more vulnerable to unseen influences. Throughout this presentation, I want us to reflect on how unseen forces can impact us and why faith is so vital in maintaining our spiritual safety. Remember, understanding that there are unseen eyes watching us can change how we approach our daily lives and spiritual practices. Jinns reside in various places, and it's important to remember that they are part of the unseen world around us. One key point is that we should not use bones or any remnants of others to clean ourselves after answering the call of nature. This is a matter of respect and maintaining purity, both physically and spiritually. Additionally, we should avoid harming jinns, as causing harm can have spiritual repercussions and disturb the balance of their environment. Being aware of their dwellings is also crucial, whether it's a specific area or a hidden corner, so we can act respectfully when we need to go there. Whenever we enter these places, seeking refuge through prayer or supplication is essential to protect ourselves. Remember, respecting their space and being mindful of their presence helps us maintain harmony and adhere to the teachings about coexistence with the unseen world. In this slide, we see a very important teaching from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as narrated by Abdullah bin Mas'ud. He emphasizes that we should not perform istinya, which is the act of cleansing ourselves after using the restroom, with dung or bones. Now, you might wonder why this is so significant. Well, the key point here is that even in our personal hygiene, there are boundaries and etiquettes we must observe. The Prophet mentions that dung and bones are considered provisions for our brothers among the jinn. This highlights a broader concept, that our actions can have unseen effects, and we should be cautious about what we leave behind. It also reminds us to be respectful and mindful of the environment we create, which can impact not only ourselves but others around us, including the jinn. This teaching fits into the overall theme of the presentation, which is about maintaining purity and respect in our daily practices, recognizing that our behaviors have spiritual and unseen implications. So, always remember to leave no harmful remnants behind, as we are responsible for our cleanliness and the well-being of all creatures, seen and unseen. Today, I want to talk about how evil spirits gain control over individuals. One of the key points is that they tend to target those with little religious inclination. When a person's heart and tongue desert their faith, it creates an opening for these spirits to influence them. Souls that have forsaken the remembrance of Allah, the Most High, are especially vulnerable. When someone stops engaging in the prescribed formulas for strengthening their faith, they become even more susceptible. Evil spirits can easily overtake those who are not holding onto Allah's remembrance, who lack true tawhid, and who are spiritually exposed or naked. Essentially, when a person abandons their spiritual defenses and connection to Allah, they become more vulnerable to these influences. So, the overall message here is that maintaining our remembrance of Allah and strengthening our faith are crucial defenses against evil spirits gaining control over us. Now, let's talk about possession and exorcism. Jinns are capable of entering a person's mind and body, and when that happens, there are three main methods to remove them. The first method involves summoning another jinn to confront the one inside, but it's important to note that this practice is forbidden in Islam because it can lead to greater harm and misguidance. The second method is to identify and confirm shirk, or associating partners with Allah. Interestingly, when the jinn sees that the person has turned to kufr, or disbelief, it becomes pleased and leaves, believing that its method and beliefs are correct. This highlights how dangerous and deceptive these encounters can be if not handled properly. The third method, and the one generally encouraged, involves using Quranic recitations and prayers to seek Allah's protection. But it's crucial to understand, these practices are only effective if the person has firm iman, strong faith, and a good connection with Allah based on righteous deeds. Without that spiritual foundation, these supplications may not be effective. This slide reminds us that true protection comes from sincere faith and reliance on Allah alone. Today, I want to talk about the treatment based on two key factors, as explained by Ibn Qayyim. First, for the possessed individual, the approach involves personal strength and turning directly to the creator of these spirits. It's about seeking refuge with both the heart and the tongue, making sure they are in harmony. This highlights the importance of Tawheed, or the oneness of Allah, and trusting completely in Him. Without this trust, a person can be in complete loss, vulnerable to negative influences. Now, for the exorcist, Ibn Qayyim emphasizes that the person performing the exorcism must possess both these spiritual factors. It's not just about saying the right words, but about having the inner strength and faith. When these conditions are met, even simple words like "get out of him," or phrases like "Bismillah," or even acknowledging that there is no power and no strength except with Allah, become powerful tools. This approach reminds us that the effectiveness of the treatment relies heavily on the spiritual preparedness and trust in Allah, which connects back to our overall theme of reliance on divine guidance and faith in overcoming spiritual challenges. Sometimes, Shaykh al-Islam, Ibn Taymiyyah, would send someone to a possessed person to speak directly to the spirit inside. He would say, "The sheikh says for you to get out because this is not permissible for you." And interestingly, in many cases, the possessed individual would regain consciousness and the spirit would leave. There were also times when Ibn Taymiyyah would address the jinns himself, commanding them to leave, and they would obey. In more stubborn cases, he would sometimes resort to using blows to expel the spirits. But what's remarkable is that when the person would wake up afterward, they felt no pain, showing that his actions were effective without harm. This approach highlights his deep understanding and authority over these spirits, connecting to the overall theme of spiritual power and the importance of proper knowledge in dealing with such phenomena. Now, let's take a closer look at how the Prophet, PBUH, approached treatment through prayer. The supplication shown here is a powerful reminder of the importance of turning to Allah in times of need. It begins with, "O the Lord of the people," addressing Allah directly with humility and reverence. The next part, "Remove the trouble," emphasizes our reliance on divine intervention to overcome difficulties. We see the acknowledgement that the cure is in your hands, which underscores that ultimate healing and relief come from Allah alone. The phrase, "and there is none except you who can remove it," highlights the exclusive power of Allah to remove diseases and hardships. This supplication isn't just about asking for physical healing. It reflects a deep trust in Allah's mercy and sovereignty. Connecting this to the overall theme of the presentation, it reminds us that faith and prayer are integral parts of treatment in Islamic tradition. It's a beautiful example of how spiritual reliance complements physical remedies, emphasizing that sincere dua can be a powerful tool in times of illness. This slide, therefore, encourages us to remember that in our most vulnerable moments, turning to Allah with heartfelt prayer is both appropriate and essential. Today, I want to highlight an important aspect of treatment by companions, as narrated by Abdul Aziz. In this story, Thabit and I visited Anas bin Malik when Thabit was feeling unwell. Thabit openly expressed his sickness, and asked Anas if he could treat him with the ruqya of Allah's messenger, letter FDFA. Anas responded positively, offering to recite a specific supplication for healing. He recited a powerful prayer, calling upon Allah as the Lord of the people and the remover of trouble, asking for healing. This prayer emphasizes the belief that only Allah is the ultimate healer, and his healing leaves no lasting ailment. The key takeaway here is the importance of seeking Allah's help through supplication and ruqya when faced with illness. It also underscores the role of companions in supporting each other spiritually and through acts of faith. This story connects to our overall theme by illustrating how reliance on Allah and the Prophet's teachings guide us in times of need. It reminds us that faith and supplication are essential components of healing and treatment. Now, let's talk about some traditional practices mentioned in the slide. First, there's the act of Quranic recitation combined with a gentle blowing into a baby's mouth. This involves slightly spitting while placing the tongue between the lips, and then saying, "Bismillah, I'm a slave of Allah, so get away, O enemy of Allah." This method is referenced by Ahmed and is believed to invoke protection through the power of Quranic words. Next, we have a more vigorous practice where someone strikes the back of the affected person, saying, "Get out, enemy of Allah, get out." After this, it's common to give water and make dua, seeking Allah's help and protection. This practice is mentioned by Ahmed and Abu Dawud. Finally, the slide discusses reciting Surah Al-Fatiha 3 times. After each recitation, gather your saliva, spit it out, and then blow on the person who is affected, both in the morning and evening. This method, recorded by Abu Dawud, emphasizes the healing and protective power of Quranic recitation, combined with specific physical actions. Overall, these practices highlight the importance of Quranic words, supplication, and specific physical acts in seeking protection and healing, tying into our broader theme of spiritual and traditional approaches in health and well-being. I seek refuge with Allah, the Lord of the daybreak, from the evil of what he has created. This means I am turning to Allah, seeking his protection from any harm or evil that might come from his creations. Then I ask for protection from the darkness of the night as it comes in its darkness, or even from the setting or disappearance of the moon, which can sometimes symbolize the arrival of night's dangers. I also seek refuge from witchcraft, especially when practitioners blow into knots, which is a common method believed to cast spells. Finally, I ask to be protected from the envy of others, because envy can cause harm and sow discord. These words are part of Surah Al-Falaq, and they remind us of the importance of seeking Allah's protection from all sorts of evil and harm in our daily lives. This connects to our overall theme of reliance on Allah and the importance of seeking his refuge for safety and peace. I seek refuge with Allah, the Lord of mankind, the King of mankind, and the Ilah, or God, of mankind. This opening line is a powerful reminder of turning to the ultimate authority and protector, Allah, who governs and sustains all of humanity. It emphasizes the importance of placing our trust and reliance in him alone. Next, I ask for protection from the evil of the whisperer, the devil, who whispers evil into the hearts of people. This whisperer is subtle and persistent, trying to lead us astray through negative thoughts and doubts. But what's crucial here is that, after we remember Allah, this whispering withdraws, showing us that remembrance and mindfulness of Allah are effective shields against evil influences. The whisperer whispers in the breasts of mankind, meaning these evil suggestions target our inner selves, our hearts and minds. It's not just external, it's an internal struggle. And these whispers come from both jinns and humans, highlighting that evil influences can be unseen or seen, but both are dangerous. Overall, this surah underscores the importance of seeking Allah's protection from internal and external evil forces, reminding us to stay mindful of Allah's power and mercy in our daily lives. Whenever the Prophet FDFA went to bed every night, he had a special routine for protection. He would cup his hands together and recite 3 powerful surahs, Surat Al-Ikhlas, Surat Al-Falaq, and Surat An-Nas. After reciting these, he would blow over his hands, which helps send blessings and protection. Then he would rub his hands over parts of his body that he could reach, starting with his head, face, and the front of his body. He would do this 3 times each night. This practice teaches us a simple yet effective way to seek Allah's protection before sleep, emphasizing the importance of reliance on dua and recitation for safety and peace. Whenever Allah's messenger letter FDFA became sick, he would recite the Muwwidhat, which are Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas, and then blow his breath over his body. This shows the importance he placed on these duas for seeking protection and healing. When he was seriously ill, I would also recite these 2 surahs and gently rub his hands over his body, hopping to bring blessings and relief. Additionally, I want to highlight that before going to bed, the Prophet letter FDFA would blow on his hands while reciting these same surahs, and then pass his hands over his body. This practice demonstrates the routine of seeking Allah's protection and comfort through these surahs, which are considered powerful in safeguarding us from harm. These actions reflect a deep reliance on Quranic supplications and remind us of the importance of turning to Allah in times of sickness and daily life. They are a beautiful example of how the Prophet letter FDFA used Quranic recitations as a source of healing and protection, which we can incorporate into our own routines. Today, I want to highlight the significance of reciting specific supplications for protection. We start with the 3 powerful chapters from the Quran, Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, and An-Nas. These are often called the protection surahs because of their profound spiritual benefits. Al-Ikhlas, which is the 112th chapter, emphasizes the oneness of Allah. Al-Falaq, the 113th chapter, seeks refuge from evil and harm. And An-Nas, the 114th chapter, is a plea for protection from the whisperings of Shaitan and evil influences. The key point here is that reciting these 3 chapters 3 times in the morning and in the evening acts as a safeguard. According to the hadith reported by Abu Dawud and At-Tirmidhi, this practice is enough to protect a person from all harm. It's a simple but powerful act of faith that can serve as a shield throughout our day. This connects to our overall theme of seeking continuous spiritual protection and relying on Allah's words and blessings. Remember, these supplications are not just words. They are a means of divine protection that we can incorporate into our daily routine easily. By doing so, we strengthen our connection to Allah and fortify ourselves against any negativity or harm that may come our way. Today, I want to share a beautiful story narrated by Mu'ad bin Abdullah bin Qubayb about a moment he experienced with the Prophet, letter FDFA. He tells us that they set out on a very dark, rainy night, searching for the messenger so he could lead them in prayer. Imagine how challenging that must have been, walking in the darkness and rain, yet their intention was sincere. Mu'ad then describes meeting the Prophet, letter FDFA, who asked him to speak. Interestingly, Mu'ad hesitated and didn't say anything at first, but the Prophet repeated his request. Finally, Mu'ad asked, "What should I say?" And the Prophet, letter FDFA, gave him a powerful and simple dua. Say, He is Allah the One and Al-Mu'awwidhatin, when you reach evening and when you reach morning 3 times. He explained that these words would suffice him against everything, meaning they offer protection and spiritual strength. This story highlights several key points, including the importance of turning to Allah through supplication and remembrance, especially in difficult times. It also emphasizes the significance of reciting certain supplications consistently as a means of protection. Overall, it connects to our broader theme of relying on Allah's guidance and His words for safety and reassurance. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this slide, we focus on 3 essential surahs that Muslims often recite for protection and seeking Allah's help. The first one is Surah Ikhlas, which emphasizes Allah's oneness. It states that Allah is unique, eternal, and self-sufficient. It also highlights that He has no offspring and is not comparable to anything. This surah reminds us of Allah's absolute monotheism and His special status. Next, we have Surah Al-Falaq. This surah is a prayer for protection against external harms. It begins with seeking refuge in Allah, the Lord of the dawn, from the evil of what He created, and from the darkness when it deepens, which can symbolize various dangers. It also asks for protection from those who blow on knots, often associated with witchcraft, and from envy, which can cause harm. Finally, we come to Surah an-Nuz. This surah is a plea for protection from the whisperings of Satan and evil thoughts that can creep into our hearts. It asks Allah, the King and God of mankind, to guard us from the evil whispers of the whisperers who secretly tempt us, whether they are jinn or humans. Reciting these surahs 3 times each is a powerful way to seek Allah's protection in our daily lives. They connect to the overall theme of reliance on Allah and His ability to safeguard us from unseen and seen harms. These short but profound chapters serve as spiritual shields, reinforcing our trust in Allah's mercy and power. Now, let's discuss the conclusion and some important spiritual remedies. When you're affected by jinns, it's recommended to recite Surah Nas. This surah acts as a shield and helps in seeking protection from such influences. If you're affected by the evil eye, then Surah Falaq is the key. It's known for its power to ward off envy and negative energies. In cases of magic or black magic, the best approach is to recite both Surah Mu'awwidhatayn, which are Surah Falaq and Surah Nuz together. These two together cover various spiritual threats and provide comprehensive protection. When you're affected by Satan or Shaitan, Ayat al-Kursi is the most effective. It's a powerful verse that emphasizes God's sovereignty and protection against evil whispers. If someone is possessed, reciting Surah Fatiha is highly recommended. It's a healing surah that calls for divine mercy and cure. And finally, if you feel a supernatural presence in your house, the best action is to recite Surah Baqarah. Sometimes, simply playing it can help create a protective environment, especially if reading aloud isn't possible at that moment. Remember, these are spiritual tools designed to strengthen your faith and provide protection. Always combine them with sincere supplication and trust in Allah's mercy. And that brings us to the end. I want to thank you all for your time and attention today. If you have any questions or want to follow up, feel free to reach out at info@cldinstitute. Remember, the key takeaway from this presentation is the importance of continuous learning and applying these concepts to make a real difference. I hope you leave inspired to take the next step in your journey. Thanks again, and have a great day.